I'm delighted to say we've been joined by one of our expert moderators at TOC Europe, Pascal Olivier. He's president of Maritime Street, wearing two hats, of course. He's chair of Digitalization Committee at IAPH. Welcome.
Hi, Peter.
TOC
Good
Europe.
to be here.
Nice to have you here. Thank you.
So great to be here after 3 years, right?
Isn't it just?
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Cool. So you're sitting in on two panels today. You're moderating. First one, we've been talking about cybersecurity guidelines. Would you like to sort of expand a little bit on what's been discussed, please?
Yeah, we just closed that session. I mean, it was really a great one. I mean, we focus on the IAPH guidelines for cybersecurity at ports and port facilities, port terminal, that IAPH released in September of last year. It was the first ever guidelines that we developed for the industry to get organized. What is great thing about it and what we discussed, it has been developed in the context also of the IMO cybersecurity management framework. And indeed it has been, it went through the MSC committee in October, through the IMO file committee in month of May. So now it's going to be officially part of the IMO guidelines. So we have been discussing about how to implement the guidelines from an organizational perspective, but also from an IT perspective this morning, and also from an OT, from operational technology perspective. So that has been interesting to discuss with colleagues about where they are, and there are still lots of things to be done, right, indeed.
Well, lots of things to be done. One of them being standardization. That's another topic that you'll be discussing here at TOC Europe. So tell us a little bit about how you intend to bring the industry together.
Well, that's one of the questions. It is the first time that we are getting together with the leading standardization groups from the private sector side. We have the International Port Community System Association, IPSCA, with Protect Group. That is part of our organization now. We have the DCSA, Digital Container Shipping Association. We have TIC 4.0, which is representing the terminal industry. And also finally from the vessel side, nautical side, we have the International Task Force on Port Call Optimization. And we're going to be discussing about primarily three big subjects. How to get together, because everybody's working on his side for each own stakeholder perspective. If I am a PCS operator, if I'm a terminal operator, if I'm a container shipping line perspective, or if I am a harbor master perspective, So I think this is a great forum at TOC Europe this year to get everybody, each group together, and to see how we can organize a roundtable, for the common good of our industry, rather than working separately. I think it's going to be a first item that we're going to be talking about. The second key item is we have been talking for the last weeks also, especially in the US with the FMC, about how to regulate data exchange. So that means it's about data harmonization, it's about data standardization, but at the time where it's still difficult to share data within the industry because stakeholders do not understand the value of sharing data, is we're going to be discussing today about, do we need to regulate data sharing and therefore to establish data collaboration in terms of data governance with the help of the authorities? Would it be the Port Authority? Would it be the states? We are there, and the industry need to accelerate big time. Yeah.
And so the goal is to get optimized operations, more visibility, more accuracy. What's the win in all of this?
Well, it's twofold. I mean that of course, trade facilitation is super key, but supply chain security is also very key. It has been our twin pillars for the last 2 decades. And we need to get better organized for sure in that. But of course, everybody has been talking for the last 2 years because of supply chain disruption about visibility. We are not talking more about predictability because cargo owners are very concerned, when they have, estimated time arrival, which is valid, 30% only of time in numbers of ports. So when you have your supply chain to be organized, they cannot get organized. Everybody knows this. So we need to think different on the way forward in terms of efficiency on our supply chain.
So in the logistics and shipping industries, we're seeing a plethora of startups popping up, and some of them get hoovered up by the, could we say, existing players. You're a champion of startups. Can you talk us a little bit more about what you may have up your sleeve?
Yeah. It was a subject discussion with Paul Holloway this morning about, and we believe that a lot that TOC can be a very important place to be for startups in the industry, to meet with industry, but also with venture capital firms. I just sharing about 2 weeks ago an event in Barcelona, which was hosted by the Port of Barcelona, where all the venture capital community was meeting for the first time together to understand the industry and to discover startup in log tech, in maritime tech, and so forth. That was really interesting. That was the first time that the venture capital community was looking at our industry. It's new. Why is this? Because the last 2 years, even during the pandemic, we have to accelerate in digitalization, and venture capital accelerate too. I mean, last year was, in supply chain, more than $40 billion invested in supply chain, tech. So it's tremendous. But in our industry, the problem is that we have is you got in one end you got the investors, who are, very specific animal in terms of investment in venture capital with their own game plan, right? On the other side, you got the industry. The industry is used to very large capex. It does not understand the valuation of the ecosystems, where it's more on IP than on physical infrastructure. Yeah, I mean the expense is on the IP, not on physical infrastructure. So that we need to address that. And finally, with the CEO of the startups, we have difficulty working with the industry because procurement of shipping lines and terminal operator is very different from the way that startups work. And it's not about working on a proof of concept on a pilot. Startups want to sell to all ports of the world. It's not only to sell to one port only. So it's interesting to have a place that startups can work. And so we did a first event with Tech2, who is representing all the venture capital industry in Europe. And I think at TOC here, I think it's important that also TOC is embracing the wave of the startups and not only working with the big guys of our industry, like here this week, but we're seeing here, a few startups like Awake AI that is working on call optimization, just-in-time arrival of ships, for example, that we saw also in Barcelona 2 weeks ago. So I think that TOC has a major role in the industry to get the industry working with startups and to get startups working the industry from a business, from a B2B perspective.
Pascal, it's great to have you here in the flesh at TOC Europe 2022. From your side, how is it to come back into a real live industry again? Well, live exhibition.
I mean, it's, I met with one of my colleagues this morning. He said, we met only, it was new to our industry. From a organization perspective, but he was working for Hapag-Lloyd, but he's now working on the standardization at DCSA, and he said, Pascal, it's strange because we have to meet to people, and we meet for the first time. So we do not, from Teams to physical, we do not realize. But I think we're going to get there, and we're going to get there also at TOC, Americas very soon. We are looking to have one of our speakers, it's coming from Now Ports, that we hosted about 3 years ago in Cartagena. That was just before the pandemic, and at this time he was just closing his first round of financing. They are a digital freight forwarder. They just raised $8 million when we interviewed him, 3 years ago. Now he just closed $150 million round of financing. He's now the first unicorn in log tech in South America. We'll be discussing about that at TOC Americas in Lima. With all our startups, indeed. Yeah.
It's great that we can take it around the world.
Oh yeah, indeed. There's so much to be done, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thanks again for being part of the TOC family.
Thank you, Alain.
All the best to you.
All right.
Thank you.